screen, just so you can get more of an idea of who I am, my background, where I'm coming from, all of that good stuff. All right. So, who am I? Well, this right here is my family. You have my eldest sister right here on the top left. Then you have me right here, right below her. And then my father in the middle, my second oldest sister right beside me, my mother right beside my father, my little brother, and my grandmother on the top right. Research shows that if I share with you my family, you guys are more inclined to listen to what I have to say. So we're going to see if that actually works. So that's my family. That's where I come from. This right here is the Ohio State University. I am a proud product of OSU. I am a Buckeye for life. And this is where I got my undergrad in neuroscience and my minor in engineering sciences. And while I was there, I did a lot of different types of research. And it's cool because it took me all over the world. I got to, present in places like Vancouver, Canada, Madrid, Spain, Bermuda, trips to Paris, France, or yeah, sorry. And then I started my actual PhD program there. And so when I started that, I did more studies, and this is going towards my doctorate. And so I did more studies on the brain. On my head, you see a cap, and that is what hooks up to a machine called FNIRS. It's a fancy acronym for functional near infrared spectroscopy. And basically that just means we're able to see where brain activity is happening on the surface of the brain solely using lights. So we don't need a big metal, machine like a fMRI or an MEG or anything like that. And it's really cool and it's really fast. So I'm also an athlete. I play collegiate football. That's me right there, hugging the trophy like my baby. I'm also a musician. That's me in the middle with the saxophone. Playing with a group for Tiny Desk Submission, playing for OSU, different talent shows, things of that sort. And I'm a speaker, of course. I'm here with you tonight. This right here was a clip from Boca Raton High School speaking to students getting ready to go to college. Here I'm at a sports conference in St. Louis, Missouri, FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, if you are familiar with that. I'm also a camp counselor. On top of that, I play recreational football, so I'll play flag football when I have extra time. I play on a basketball team that travels on the eastern part of the country, playing different teams. I also speak at different churches around the Midwestern part of the country. And then on top of all of that, I have a huge addiction to traveling. So this is a picture from Nice, France, one of my favorite spots, Morocco. This was in the Sahara Desert in Morocco. I loved it. This is South Africa. And so that's just a quick tidbit on who I am, what I like to do, and all of that, and what's brought me here. However, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the share so we can connect again face to face. I wasn't always at this point, right? I wasn't always traveling and playing music and an athlete and getting a PhD and all this stuff. I really had what I want to call my lowest point in my life. And that was around my senior year of undergrad at OSU. In this part of my life, I made different choices that weren't really good, and it led to me really having an identity crisis, right? Really soul searching, but not finding any answers. Really being empty, being a shell of a person, letting other people come in and live my life for me, right? Never being fulfilled, just going through the motions, just doing this, doing that, and doing the other with no real intentions. And if you know who we are, we're called human beings, not human doings, right? We are here to live, to be, to thrive, right? And not just to merely exist. And so I was in such a low place because I felt like I really didn't have a purpose, and this led to, wrong relationships or situationships, if you will, led to insecurities. It led to me, believing lies from the enemy and just placing idols before God. And so this was a really rough patch in my life. One thing that was able to brighten it up was one of the pictures I showed. I got a chance to go to Bermuda to present research. Little did I know this was going to be the part of my life that would change me forever, right? So we got to Bermuda, and if you've ever been to Bermuda, it is the most beautiful place you will ever see. One of them, I would say, one of the most beautiful. It's got translucent blue water and pink sand. Anywhere you take a picture, it's like it's a screensaver, right? It's just absolutely unbelievable. So we're in the conference, right? And the in the hotel, it's a 5-star hotel, and OSU's covering all of it. And so we're there, and there's these big windows in the conference room, and outside the windows you can see the pool, and beyond the pool you can see the palm trees, and beyond the palm trees you see the beach that's privately owned by the hotel, and beyond the beach, of course, is the water just shimmering in the sunlight. And so, I get my buddy and I'm like, man, we can't just be, cooped up in here. Like, we got to go outside and we got to experience that. Right. And so we kind of snuck out the conference. We didn't present until Friday, it's Wednesday. So we're like, we'll be fine. Went upstairs, got our trunks, went down to the hotel beach. When we got there, it was really cool. There was a lot of people, a lot of guests, a lot of families, kids running around. So we went a couple beaches over. And at this point, it was very, very remote. Nobody was over there. This part wasn't owned by the hotel. And so it was cool. We were just chilling, having a good time. We see 2 guys walking over, and we recognize them from the conference. One from, USC, one from Wisconsin. And so we're hanging out with them. At that point, I look out and I see this large rock in the middle of the water. And for some reason, I'm like, hey, y'all, let's go swim out to that. Everybody thought it was a good idea. So what we do, we hopped in the water and we started swimming out to the rock. And I'm going somewhere with this. So we're swimming and the waves are pretty choppy, right? They're pretty choppy, but it wasn't anything we couldn't handle. So we get to the bottom of the rock, the front of the rock, which was the only way that we could go up, right? Because the other parts of the rock, it wasn't a super steep drop off, but it was, too much for us to just, climb up. And so the front of the rock was a gradual incline, but it had sharp protrusions that were coming out from it. And so that was our only way up. So we went up the front of the rock and, our hands were, bloody and our feet were bloody by the time we got up to the top, but it was worth it because when we got up to the top, the view was amazing. Just sitting up there, looking at the rest of the ocean, looking back at the waves crashing on the shore and just enjoying this amazing Bermuda weather. Right. And so after a while, we're sitting there and we realize, okay, we do have to get back eventually. We have an appointment at 5 p.m. that we can't miss. Right. It was an event that we couldn't miss. Everybody at the colloquium that we were at needed to be there. And so we're looking around trying to see how are we going to really get off this rock. And we really couldn't find a way because, the way we came up, we didn't want to go down that way because if we slipped, that would have scraped our entire side up. We didn't want to jump off the sides or the back because it was a bit of a steep drop off. And we could see, again, the water's clear, so you could see the bottom that there's rocks underneath, but you really couldn't see how far it was because of the way that the water refracts the light. And so we're like, all right, kind of in a situation here now. And so, 5 minutes goes by, 10 minutes goes by, 15 minutes goes by. And as we're trying to find a way to just, get off this rock and muster up the courage, we noticed that the waves are becoming more violent and the tide is rising. Now, this sounds bad, but it was actually good because that meant that the drop off wasn't as far. It wasn't as steep. And so it was the guy from USC who was up first. And he's waiting. One wave comes and crashes against the rock and goes past. Another wave comes, crashes, and goes past. And he waits for the perfect wave, and he jumps in with the wave and allows the wave to carry him away from the rock. So we saw he made it fine. And we're like, okay. And so as the guy from Wisconsin, he jumps in, carries him. It's like, okay, I'm up next. I jump in. The wave carries me, and I'm good. And we're swimming back, and we get to the shore. I look back. I see my buddy still on the rock, right? There was 4 of us. I see my buddy still on the rock. So I'm like, somebody's got to go back and get him, right? And so the guy from USC, he's like, all right, I'll go get him. He swims, he gets about halfway to the rock. At halfway, he turns around, and when he gets back to the shore, we're like, what happened? What's going on? And he's saying that, man, I couldn't do it. The waves were just too much. It was too choppy. I couldn't handle it. So I look at the guy from Wisconsin. The guy from Wisconsin looks back at me. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go and do it. And so I get out there, and the waves were definitely a lot more choppy than the first time, but I got to the rock. It wasn't anything too bad. So I'm at the base of the rock. I want you guys to pay attention right here. I'm at the base of the rock. I'm looking up at my friend who's at the top of the rock, and I'm trying to coax him to just jump in because we can't be late for this appointment, right? And I'm holding on to like one of the sharp parts of the rock near the front of the rock. And as I'm in mid-sentence trying to coax him to jump off the rock, this large wave from my right from my left side comes and swallows me up, and it swooshes me right in, and it's dragging me across the rock, right, the sharp part of the rock, and I'm scratching up my sides, my ribs, and my thigh. And so I eventually get back to the surface, and before I'm able to even inhale to catch my next breath, I'm already out of breath. Before I'm able to inhale to catch my next breath, an even larger wave from my right, this one comes and completely swallows me up, and now I'm dragged away from the rock. I'm doing somersaults. I'm in the middle of the ocean. I have no idea what direction is what, no idea what's left, right, up, or down. And I begin to panic at this time. And so eventually, I'm leveled out, and I figured out what direction is up. So I'm like, okay, I just got to swim up. I'm a pretty strong swimmer. And so stroke after stroke after stroke, I'm swimming and I'm reaching nothing. Another stroke, I'm reaching nothing. Another stroke, nothing. Mind you, I didn't even have a chance to take a breath before this second wave came and drug me under. I had no idea I was this deep under. And so at this point, I'm really thinking like, this is it. This is easily my last few moments on earth. And when they say your life flashes before your eyes in a near-death experience, that is very true. And it's not like your entire life flashes before your eyes, but your brain is very interesting, the way it can process so many different things, so many different memories, so many different feelings and emotion in a split second like that. And so I experienced that. And in this moment, in my time in life, I showed you how unfulfilled I was, how I really didn't have a purpose, how I really didn't have direction. Right? If these are my last moments, who's going to be the one who finds my body, floating somewhere in the Caribbean Sea? Who's going to be the one who takes my place as a big brother to my younger brother, who at that time was about to enter into high school, some of the most crucial times in his life, right? What was the last thing I said to my parents? The last thing I said to my sisters, right? You saw my family right there. What was the last thing I said to them? When was the last time I told my grandmother I loved her, right? All of these things. And so I'm reaching everything I got, nothing. At this point, I'm ready to just open up my mouth and take in the water to get it over with, because I am at the end of myself. I literally have nothing left to give. I have no more air to hold. And just as I'm about to open my mouth and just inhale, because I am spent, I am completely spent. And in that last moment, my finger broke the surface of the water, and I thrust myself up. Right before I opened my mouth, I thrust myself up, and I'm gasping for air. I'm looking around, I'm panicking. I find the rock, I swim over to the rock, I climb up it. I don't care about the sharp parts this time, and I get to the top of the rock. And my friend is up there, and he's looking at me as if he saw a ghost, because he thought that I was gone. My friend thought that I was just completely gone. So he's like, there's no way that I'm getting in this water now, right? And it's honestly a move of God, the fact that he jumped in eventually. I don't know what got into him, but he jumped in and he made it back, and I made it back. And we had to wait for the waves to calm down. We made it to the appointment, but that's not the important part. Neither is the next day or the day after that. It was really a few weeks after that I was really able to process everything that happened. Process how this was really my second chance to get things right. Process how I have a purpose. I have a reason why I'm on this earth. Process the fact that rock that I was clinging to in the middle of the ocean, that symbolizes God, right? And so that is the person I should have been holding on this whole time. God is my rock, right? Processing all these things. And then I become just obsessed, myomanically focused on improving my life, improving my mind and my mental health and my worth and my beliefs and all of that. And not only doing it for myself, but doing it for others, right? So I started, applying what I learned from my neuroscience degree, right? I started reading books and listening to podcasts and listening to speeches from thought leaders in the realm of mind and subconscious and all of that. And it just any way I could amass this information from all the experts, collect it and help myself, as well as sharing it with others. And so that's what I did. And so that is how I am where I am right now, right? But it started with a near-death experience that almost took me out. And one of the things that I focus on, and I'm getting into why it's so important, the way that we speak to each other, is words. Words are so important. You know, they say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words don't hurt me. Not true. Words are so important because they are the physical and tangible part of a conversation, right? Words coming out of someone's mouth are, you know, intangible, right? They're just audible. But once they're impacted, once they are, somebody hears them and perceives them and receives those words, then it's reflected in emotion. You can feel those words, right? And so words are truly physical and they have an impact on people who are listening, right? And so here's the thing, those words, when they are internalized by the listener, they then influence that person's thoughts. They intertwine and intermingle and intermix with our thoughts, how we think about ourselves, how we think about others, how we think about the world, our perspective, our viewpoint, right? And then that affects how we feel. That shapes how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about the world, how we feel about our worth, how we feel about our value, right? And then from that point on, that affects how we behave. And how we behave shapes a bunch of little different moments in our lives, and those moments will shape then our life, right? So words, through shaping how we feel, or how we think, then how we feel, then how we behave, shapes our lives. That's why words are so important. If you don't believe me, look at history. Look at how Hitler was able to move a nation, right, with words. Look at how MLK was able to move a nation with words, right? Not saying that words are only going to be good or only going to be bad. They're going to be both. You can look at those two prime examples right there. But both of those leaders used words to do what they were trying to do and get across what they were trying to get across. So words planted in a child can completely change the course of that child's life, their entire life. Why? Because children are very impressionable. Their minds are so impressionable, right? Their minds are like sponges. That's why it's so easy for kids to learn new languages that it takes adults a lot longer to learn, because their brains are sponges, soaking up any and everything, absorbing it, right? So it's so much easier for something that is spoken to a child to then become a belief for that child. And when something is a belief, your brain, your mind will find any and every way for that belief to become a reality. That's just how words are. That's how they're so important. And so that's going to get into how we are speaking to one another and how we are speaking to our young kings, right? And so there's 3 points that I want to talk about really quick. 3 points that I want to talk about as far as how we speak to our young kings. The first point is going to be speaking their future into them. Speaking their future into them. And before I even get into that, I want to share with you a quick story. It was actually a part of a sermon that I did. And I want to share with you that story real quick to show you just how important these words are as far as who is speaking into our future. All right. And my reading skills weren't the best, and so we took standardized tests that told you, you know, where you could be at, as far as, you know, your reading level. If you're reading below your grade level, at your grade level, or advanced. So I was below my grade level, and so in 4th grade I was enrolled in this special reading class in order to get back to where I'm supposed to be. And so I did the class. You know, I didn't think anything of it. I was just thinking, you know, this is more school. What am I gonna do? And I did it, and I did well, and I excelled. So much to the point to where the reading teacher contacted my parents, and I didn't know about this until, you know, later on down the road. They contacted my parents, and they're like, "Well, your son is doing great. He can, you know, leave and enjoy the rest of the class during, you know, language arts period if you want." And she was like, "No, I want you to keep him." And she said, the teacher said, there's really no reason to keep him in here. He's right where he needs to be. He can go with the rest of the class. My mom said, I don't want him to be right where he needs to be. I don't want him to come out of this reading class just average with everybody else. I want you to keep him in there until he is reading at a 6th, a 7th, an 8th grade level in the 4th grade, right? So many times we want to rush out of a situation that seems bad, but really there's something cooking up inside, right? There's so many times All right, so basically that was a time in 4th grade, as you could hear from the video, where Again, my reading skills were below par. However, my mother saw something in me that I didn't see, right? She saw me reading way beyond, a fourth grade reading level, which is where I needed to be at. I was in fourth grade reading at, a third grade level. And she saw that. She saw that easily. And what she wanted to do is she wanted to keep me in that class until I reached that level. A lot of people would have been quick to pull their son out, pull their child out because of the stigma that comes with it, you know? But she saw beyond that, right? And that is a reason why I'm where I am right now. Because not only did she do that, and I didn't find out about that until years later, but she continued to speak that into me, right? And this is something that happened all the way throughout. We could even go back to when I was a senior in undergrad, getting ready to graduate. I'm graduating from OSU, all my friends are bright-eyed and, got their internships and big jobs, high-paying jobs, and all of that good stuff. I'm applying to grad school, PhD, and I actually didn't get in the first year. I applied to a bunch of different schools around the country, didn't get into one. So at this point, I'm really soul searching. I'm really trying to figure out, okay, why? But, I know you have a purpose for me, God. Why is this happening? What am I supposed to do now? Like, I'm open, I'm willing, but I need you to lead me. I need you to lead me. And so I really I was at that point, about to go back, regress back to where I was at my lowest point. However, I had multiple conversations with my mother, but there was one in particular on the phone. I called her. It was actually when I was on my way to the lab where I was just doing research at. Really, it didn't seem like there was a point to it. I wasn't a student. I was just a research assistant doing research for somebody else, and them getting credit for it, me doing all the work. And I'm telling her my situation, and it's almost as she's laughing, and she's not laughing at me, like she's laughing, wait, what? She's laughing because she understands the situation I'm in right now, but she sees the future situation that I'm getting ready to step into. She's saying, son, I have watched you grow up for 18, 19 years now. Or sorry, at this point, it was 22 years now. I know that there's something special for you. I know that your father has something ordained for you, specifically for you. The talents that you have, the gifts that you have, those aren't going to be wasted. And I know it. We all see it. I just need you to see it. And she's like, I can't give you that. I can't give you that purpose. But that's something that your father is going to give you. And it's coming soon. That right there, that shifted my whole belief system. That shifted me internally. That allowed me to see something in myself that I didn't see before. But my mother, again, she saw it in me before I was able to see it in me. And she spoke that future into me, right? And that's the importance of forming a belief in somebody. There's so much neuroscience behind it. There's countless studies, right? There's different studies that show, like for example, there's a study on shakes. And if anybody by the way, wants any references, I will get them out at the end. Just let me know what stories stuck out to you. But there's a study where they had shakes. They had two different shakes, gave them to participants. It was randomized, right? And with one shake, there was a label on it, a nutrition label, basically saying, it was a fat, unhealthy shake. It had more fat, more calories, more sugar, all of that stuff. And then there was a healthy shake, right? It had the label on it showing that it was very healthy, very lean, to help you live a healthy and active lifestyle. The shakes were the same. The content in the shakes were the same. The label was what was different. However, it was the belief system that this shake was healthy and this shake was unhealthy that changed the results in the participants. They measured the body fat. They measured the different, biometrics and different, health benefits or health risks of each of the participants after so many weeks of drinking this shake every day. The shakes were the exact same, but because this group A believed that these shakes were healthier, then it had an actual beneficial effect on the body. And because the group B with the shakes that were the same, but they looked like they were unhealthy because of the label, it had a detrimental effect on the body. solely because of the belief. And this is tapping into the power of the subconscious. What is the subconscious? The subconscious is so powerful. I can even give you an example right now. So I want to ask Ms. Brooks to participate with me. Ms. Brooks, I want you to think of what your favorite food is. This is your go-to. Like, you could never get tired of this. What is your absolute favorite food? You got it?
I got it.
Okay, what is it? Go ahead, share it with everybody.
It is crab meat.
Crab meat.
Absolute favorite.
Absolute favorite. Okay. All right. And if you're watching online, if you're watching on the live, I want you to think of your favorite food as well and get that in your mind. Now, here's what I'm going to do. On the count of 3, I want you to no longer like that food. Simple,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Ms. Brooks, do you still like crab meat?
I do.
She does. I told her, I told her, I want you to no longer like it. However, she still likes it. That shows that there's so much in our life that is not just ruled by our conscious mind, the things that we're aware of. There's so much in our subconscious mind that rules what we like, what we dislike, our expectations, our thoughts, our beliefs, our how far we're going to go, our performance, all of those things. All of that is ruled by the subconscious mind, right? We can be aware of it in the conscious mind, but we can't change it in the conscious mind. We've got to learn how to tap into the subconscious mind. And that's what I teach people. And that's just a quick and easy and fun example to show just how powerful the subconscious mind can be. And that's why it's so powerful and important to instill certain beliefs in different people, especially our kings. And so at this time, I want to take a pause to see if there's any questions that need to be addressed, anything I need to respond to, or if there's anything that you would like to interject, Ms. Brooks.
Yeah, there is a question. It says, is it what we think or feel about words that determines how we process, negative or positively, the message that we get? And then there's a part 2 to that question. So I'll let you answer the first.
Okay, go ahead and repeat the first question for me.
Sure. Is it what we think or feel about the words that determine how we process in a negative or positive way, or is it the message behind the words?
Yeah. So initially it is the message behind the words, right? But as you get older, as you get more mature, it is going to be how you receive that message or what you think about the message. As you get older and as you get more mature, you are able to walk more in the truths, the things that you know are true, right? And so if somebody says one thing, for example, here's a perfect example. There's the documentary about Michael Jordan that came out. Some of you guys may have watched it. It was a big documentary. So we'll take Michael Jordan as a kid versus just a random, we'll say Jack as a kid. And let's say that they are both told, I don't think you can do this. I don't think you can succeed. I don't think you can make it to play college ball. I don't think you can make it to the pros. I mean, you're all right. You got a decent jump shot, but there's a lot of competition out there. Now, Michael Jordan is the one, his famous quote is, "Oh, I take that personal." He loves stuff like that. He feeds off of that. He loves that because that fuels him to prove that person wrong. He has more motivation off of that than somebody being a cheerleader and saying, "Oh yeah, you can do it." Right. But, we say our other, young boy, say his name is, just Jack. Maybe he really buys into those lies. Maybe he truly internalizes them and they become a belief. And then because they become a belief, he really stops trying. Because they become a belief, he really has a lack of confidence when he's on the court. And that affects his performance and the way that he plays and the ways that he just shows up, his physical appearance, right? And so it's really the way that you interpret the message. As you get older and as you get a stronger mindset, it's going to be the way that you interpret the message that can be negative or positive for you. But when you're a kid, most kids interpret the messages the same way because they don't know any better. Their brains are so malleable and so impressionable that whatever is said to them, they're going to take that on.
So it's sort of like you have to take that message and put it in the right place. And so since they don't have the options, they just take it for what it is.
Exactly.
A part of, here's another question. It says, can we be innately objective to what we hear?
Innately objective to what we hear.
And create our own thoughts or feelings because of what we hear? So is there something innate in us? that gives us the objectivity to say, yes, this is how I'm going to categorize what I've heard. That's the way I understand the question.
Something innate. So yes, well, I want to answer this carefully because it's really, everybody has what's called filters. Filters are the way that we shape and perceive our world. An example of filters and how it's experienced in real life. If we all watch the movie, everybody, all of us, me, Miss Brooks, everybody on this live, we watch the movie. We're in the theaters together. We got our popcorn, all that good stuff. And we come out the movie and everybody is like, okay, what was the movie about? Or tell me your favorite part. Or what do you think about this? What about that? We all watched the same movie, but we would retell the story in slightly different ways, in slightly different detail, right? And it's because we have filters. Our experiences that we have gone through as kids growing up has shaped what stands out to us, has shaped what is important to us, has shaped what we try to overlook or try to hide or try to block out, right? And so that all creates what's called our internal filters. And just the way that we have internal filters towards a movie, we have filters towards what we hear. So because of the way that we are brought up and the experiences that we've had and the beliefs that have shaped those experiences, then it's going to seem like it's automatically shaping what we hear. Like different people are going to hear things in a different way, or going to be objective to things in a different way because of the filters that they have. So yes, it's sort of innate in the moment, like when you hear something, but that was all learned based on your experiences growing up.
Okay, fantastic. That was a powerful answer. Because I think a lot of times we think that children automatically know, when all the time they've been shaped to react and respond the way they do. You've heard it. People say, you know, they came here like that. They've always been obstinate. They've always been this or that. But what you're saying is, it seems like it's innate, but really it's shaped and formed in that child.
Yep. And here's another way to put it. We're only born with two fears: the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. Think about an infant. What makes an infant cry? Fear of loud noises and fear of falling.
Say
Right?
that again. Say that again.
We are all born with just two fears: the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. Those are the two fears. Everything beyond that point is learned. Everything beyond that point is things that we've soaked down into our subconscious through our experiences, or through what we've seen, what we've observed, our surroundings. All of that plays into it, our environment, right? And so that's how different fears are learned, and that's how different perceptions of things are learned. And it's all a learning process. And we learn what we're afraid of. We learn what other people look down on, so we look down on it. We learn what other people stay away from, so we stay away from it. We learn what is good, and so we automatically desire that, right? If a kid sees a commercial of LeBron James, holding whatever object, a toothbrush, the kid is going to want that toothbrush because he sees LeBron James holding that toothbrush. So it's automatically good, right? It's all learned.
Thank you. We have two more questions. We'll get one, and then I'll let you talk some more, and then we'll get the other one. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
That's okay? Okay, now this is about the psychological development of a child. It says, a lot of our young brothers are psychologically impacted by teachers, coaches, and mentors that do not look like them, and use negative language to achieve what they think is positive results, like wins or accomplishments. So the question is there a mental scarring that impacts the development of our king's psychological being?
Yes. And the fact that you talked about the whole wins and all of that stuff, there is a perfect example. Dr. Carol Dweck, I believe her name is, who wrote the psychology of success, basically the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. We have been training our kids in a way that really has been detrimental to a growth mindset. We've been instilling a fixed mindset. What do you mean by that, Geoff? Well, it's a perfect example. What we do with our kids is and I'll get into the whole aspect of, them not looking like, their coach or their teacher or all that. But just as far as the reinforcements that we have, we will praise a child for getting an A, before we'll praise a child for having hard work and spending extra time on problems and things of that sort, right? And so what we're doing is we're instilling the fixed mindset. The only thing that is important is the result. Oh, the fact that you got an A, that's all that matters. That's good. We're glad. If you got a C, you're in trouble, right? If you got a D, you getting a whooping, all of that stuff, right? We don't ever take time to see how much did you try, how much did you study, where was the effort at? What we need to be doing as parents or guardians or teachers or mentors is we need to be praising the hard work. And here's the reason why. You go into another test, right? The child that got the A the first time, if they got like a B, or a B minus or a C plus, they're never going to want to take another test again because they think the A is just supposed to come automatic. And if they don't get the A, that's where their worth and their value is attained to. And so then that's automatically diminishing them. But the child where we praise their effort, if they got a C the first time and they got an A the next time and they got a B the next time and they got an A minus the next time, they're going to continue to go back and do it because they know whenever I work hard, that's what matters. Whenever I keep going, that's what matters. Whenever I know that there's a challenge and I want to go towards that challenge, that's what matters. When we praise their effort, we're praising them and grooming them to have the growth mindset, saying that, okay, I messed up this time, but that doesn't have to be every time. Okay, I see that this was hard and this was difficult, but I want that challenge because I get praised when I work hard. And so I'm motivated to work hard for this next one, right? And so there's that aspect of it. And then the part where we don't see the ourselves in our teachers, in our mentors, in our coaches, things of that sort. Psychologically, yes, that does do something because it makes it harder for you to imagine yourself in their position, right? And I'm sure everybody here is aware of that. That's why it's so important for our kids to be shadowing somebody who is in the job description that they want, but also who looks like them. There's something about it. Yes, you could call it an internal bias or whatever that allows them to see themselves in that person's shoes when they look like them. Right? When they have their background, right? When they talk like them, when they sound like them, right? All of that plays into the way that we're able to look at ourselves and look at our future, right? I have friends who never thought like becoming a doctor was possible because they never saw a Black doctor. They're like, oh, we don't do that. Like, how crazy is that? How crazy of a belief is that? But that's what kids grow up thinking when they don't see it. Once they saw the first Black doctor, though, their world changed. Their world changed, right? And so that is a huge part of it psychologically. And these are great questions, by the way. I love these. I could talk about these all day.
Yeah, well, that's good because the follow-up to that question, and I said we're going to do another one, but this is a follow-up to the same question. The question is, how do we undo or heal psychological scarring in our children?
Okay. Definitely. See, I'm seeing if I'm going to get into that in my next point. So basically, the mind works off of repetition. Repetition. I talked about the subconscious. How can we talk to the subconscious? It's through repetition, right? Constantly saying the same thing over and over, it becomes a belief. Our brain is the greatest supercomputer known to man, right? So if it's like a computer, you feed it a line of code, it's going to execute that code, right? The more times you feed it that line of code, the more times it's going to execute that code. That command is going to become stronger. It's the same way with our brains. It says the neurons that fire together, wire together, right? So in the same way, if I have to use my motor cortex in order to do biceps and do curls, right? Not only are my muscle fibers getting stronger, but the connection and the coordination required of my motor cortex to do that movement is getting stronger and stronger. Or a basketball shot. Steph Curry, he does that countless times over and over to the point to where he can shoot threes with his eyes closed. Why? Because the neurons that fire together, wire together. There's such a strong pathway in his motor cortex of doing this motion that it's automatic. It's the same thing with our thoughts. The more times that we think something over and over and over again, the more times it becomes automatic, the more it becomes a belief. And then there's the question posed, all right, Geoff, what if I'm saying this positive affirmation, I'm going to be victorious, or I have worth, or I have value, or I'm going to get an A if we're talking about, kids and their scholastic endeavors, but I don't really believe it. I'm saying these affirmations, but I don't really believe it. your mind is so powerful that even if you don't believe it in the moment, the more you say it out loud and you hear yourself say it, subconsciously, that is going to become a belief. Just think about it in the inverse, right? If we can hear negative things and we believe them, oh, say you come from a broken home and they say, oh, you're always going to be just like your dad, right? Or you're never going to amount to anything, or yada yada, all the things that you hear, in, whether it's real life or on TV or movies, whatever. Those, you hear that enough times, you're going to believe it. You are going to believe it, and you are going to act as if those things are true so that they become true. Beliefs are self-fulfilling prophecies. I like to describe beliefs like this. Beliefs are like bugs that are hungry, and the only food that they're hungry for is evidence. So if you have a belief, all it wants to eat is evidence. So if I have a belief that I'm holding in my mind, whether it's true or false, I'm going to find every reason why that is true, right? And that's how beliefs work in our mind. So it's literally repetition. And I'm going to get into that a little bit in the next time. It's the things that we instill in our kids. It's the affirmations that we give them. It's the worth, significance, and the value and the truths that we feed them. Day in and day out, they begin to truly, they consciously receive it, but then it begins to sink into their subconscious and it becomes a belief the more we do it. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into, we're talking about speaking to our young kings. I hit on the first point, which is speaking future into them. The next point I want to talk about is speaking love into them. Speaking love into them. Why is that so important? Speaking love, especially with a family dynamic. And this is a quick point, but this is something that I really wanted to bring up because I have a buddy of mine. We were training for football together, and he coaches, high school kids who are trying to make it to play college ball. And there's a study that he did the stats for and, did the research for. And I give full credit to him. His name is Joseph Smith. So I give full credit to him because this is his stuff. But I told him that I'm going to use this in one of my talks because this was great. He looked at the amount of kids who end up on the streets or in gangs, and he juxtaposed those numbers with the number of kids who were on a team in high school but didn't make it to play college, right? And also didn't have a good family dynamic at home. So there's these three parts of it, right? Kids who didn't have a good family dynamic, didn't make it to college ball, and the ones who ended up on the streets, right? And there was a strong correlation basically showing that whenever you play football, there's family. You feel family. You feel a bond. Those are your brothers on and off the field, on and off the turf, right? And so come senior year, maybe you weren't the 4-star, 5-star recruit, who got picked to go to an OSU, an LSU, right? Miami, right? And so you kind of ended up, sticking around the hometown and really not going, anywhere. And you lost that family. You lost that brotherhood, right? And you go home and you don't have the family dynamic that you really want. You don't have the brotherhood or the love that you had on that team. So what do? You end up looking for that. And more times than not, where do they find it? They find it on the streets. They find it in gangs, because in gangs, they have the family dynamic. They have that father figure. They have that protection. They have that guidance. Yeah, it can be guidance in the wrong direction, but they have that guidance. They have that camaraderie. All of those are present in gangs. No, it's not the way that the type that we wanted, but all of those are present. So they end up looking for that. So that's why it's so important to speak love into our young kings, right? And again, I go back to my mother with this. She did such an amazing job. Every single day before I would leave, she would have a word with me. Every single day. Before getting on the bus and going to school, she would have a word of prayer with me, right? She would thank God for me. She would put blessings over me. She would tell me how much she loved me, right? And I had that strong dynamic. And I'm blessed to have a father in my life, my entire life, who did the exact same thing, right? And so that's huge because I always had that family dynamic, speaking love into them, especially within the family dynamic. The third, speaking worth into them, speaking worth into your young kings. And here's the reason why. Mental illnesses or neurological difficulties or complications that you might have, depression, anxiety, whatever have you, all of those are going to root from one of three things. It's that you feel that you don't belong, right? That's one. You want something, that you really desire something, but you feel you can't have it because of who or where you come from. So, for example, the doctor example that we had, you want to be a doctor, but you feel you can't because, your dad's not in your life, and, your mom is, strung out on drugs, and you've never seen a black doctor, all of that. You want it so bad, but you just feel like it's out of your reach, right? Or the final one is where you feel that you are inadequate. You feel that you are not enough. And if you look, you can even apply that to my story. All right, Geoff, we heard the story that you had. Which one was it? It was that I felt that I was not adequate. I felt that I wasn't enough. I had insecurities, all of that. I had identity issues. I had other people living my life for me. And so what happens when for example, we can go with that one. Whenever we we feel like we're not enough, then we overcompensate in other areas to try and fill that void, right? And so that ends up in people doing things as far as going to substances, or going to cutting just to feel something, or sleeping around just to feel something, right? We overcompensate in ways that we really shouldn't. And so that's why it's so important to speak the worth, the value, and the significance into your young king. Let them know how much they mean. Let them know how special they are, right? And speak that to them every single day. Again, repetition, repetition, repetition. They begin to believe that. They begin to know who they are. They begin to know their worth, their significance, and their value in a way that other people can't take. Now, don't get me wrong. My mother, she was very, very difficult on me. She was hard on me. There's at one point in high school, I felt like I couldn't do anything right. I couldn't appreciate it until later when I was a man, that I realized that she was just preparing me for a world that really wasn't set up for me to succeed. A world where I would have to work twice as hard just to get half as far. A world where I would always have to be on my best game, right? Because there were people who would like to see me fail. And that's just the fact. But though she was so hard on me, she was also my biggest cheerleader. She was also the first one to congratulate me. She was also the one who was always there supporting me, telling me how much I mean, telling me how special I was. So bringing up my gifts, all of that is so, so important. And so that is the part of speaking to our young kings, right? And as they get older, there are different ways in which we need to speak into, our kings, or our spouses, our husbands, whatever you want to call them. And I'm getting ready to get into that as well. We can take another break, or I can keep going. You let me know.
You can keep right on going. Keep right on going. We'll do the gifts at the end.
All right.
During a stride, I don't want to break it. Keep right on going.
All right. Sounds good. So this next part, I actually had a lot of fun with this part right here. So there are different things. There's different categories or subsections, if you will, that I want to break this down into, right? So we have respect, admiration, appreciation, security, and mirroring, right? Research also shows that people remember things in groups of 3 or groups of 5 more easily, right? So I broke it down into 5 groups. We have respect, admiration, appreciation, security, and mirroring. And we're going to go through all of those quickly. I know, time is approaching. I've had a blast with you guys so far tonight, but we're going to get through this, right? And so the first thing, respect, right? Respect is a language that every man that I've met, we all speak that language, right? It's a language that we speak amongst each other. And that's why you never shake a man's hand sitting down. You never give him a firm or a weak handshake. It's always firm. You always look him in the eye. It shows respect. It shows trust, all of that. But it's the same way with our spouses. We want that respect. And we can take this back to biblical, right? We can take it to Ephesians 5. Verse 22, it says, wives, submit yourselves unto your husbands as unto the Lord. You take it into a different translation, NLT. It says, accept the authority of your husband. Take it to the worldwide English version. It says, respect your husband, right? Excuse me. 3 verses later, it says, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it, right? So we have this dynamic. It tells the wives to respect the husbands, basically, and the husbands to love the wives. And they're like, why is it different for one? Why isn't it just, love both ways? when you respect your husband, when you respect your king, that is interpreted and internalized as love. Like I'm saying, this is one of our languages. We respect. That's how we internalize it. It goes a long way. Now, with that, with that, if there's somebody that you're thinking about dating or somebody you just got in a relationship or whatever have you, um, just because he's a man doesn't mean that he deserves your respect, right? And here's why. It's the term where they say, the phrase where they say husband is the head of the household. The root word for head in Greek is actually was coined as a military term for meaning the one in charge. However, there's still a line of command over him, right? So this is the head, and there's still a chain of command over him. So the head is over, the troops, the platoon, whatever you want to call it, and the head is right here, and there's a command over him, right? So the troops in the platoon only follow the head as the head follows the top command, the uppermost command. It's just the same as you. You only follow and respect your husband as your husband follows and respects God, the word of God, right? And so when the head right here is no longer listening to the top command, right, in military, if we're talking to military, then that head loses authority and he loses respect, right? It's the same way for you. If this person isn't leading the household, the family in the way that aligns with the word of God, aligns with your values and your morals, just because he's a man doesn't mean he deserves respect. You have to be following him, but as he follows Christ. And that's how that is. Admiration. Admiration. Now, this one was interesting. I actually went to my parents. I called them both up individually. They didn't know that I was calling them. And I wanted to do some research because I have never been married. I've never had a fiance. And so I've never had that dynamic where I have lived with someone for years and years and years and had the dynamic where they've said things that were really good or things that weren't really good, where they either spoke me up or spoke me down, where they fed into my kingship or tore it down. So I wanted to reach out to couples who have been doing this for a long time, married couples. And so I asked my mom, and I was like, what is it that you've seen dad react to in a very good way? The things that you say that you can tell builds his kingship, right? And I asked my dad the same thing after I called my mom. After I got off the phone with my mom, I asked my dad. I was like, all right, you guys have been married for, it feels like forever. I don't even know how long, and it's like 30 years, I think. And what has it been over the years that mom has said to you verbally that builds your kingship, that affirms you in your role as the priest of the home and the king of the family, right? They said the same exact thing. And the thing is, they said the same exact thing using the same exact example: admiration, right? My mom was talking about and recalling how this past week she was admiring all the stuff that my dad was doing around the house and building different things and, fixing up the guest room and adding shelves and desks and all of this stuff, sprucing up while taking care of my grandfather's estate who recently passed away and upkeeping the land and doing all the paperwork and getting it sold, doing all of that. That's a lot that goes into all the realtor stuff. There's a lot that goes into that. Meanwhile, still holding down his job through COVID, where he has to do everything digitally. He can't do things face to face. And so she was just admiring him for that. I asked my dad, and he said the same thing. She said, your mother has been, he's talking about over the years, but he said, as of recent, your mother has been just so complimentary, right? Just letting me know, I see you. I recognize everything that you're doing. And the thing is, my thing that really, really spoke to my dad is it was unsolicited, right? She was doing this on her own will, and that spoke volumes to him, right? Just showing him that his position, his contribution to the family was seen, was noticed. She acknowledges it, and she acknowledges the little things. It doesn't even have to be anything crazy. It's the little things, right? I spoke to another couple, actually a pastor and a first lady, right? And one thing that the pastor loves is how his wife speaks up about him, right? She's present on social media. She has a great following. And whenever she makes a post about him, her words are just amazing. They uplift him and they build him up. She is so proud of her husband. And a husband who sees a wife who is proud of him, it makes him want to do more for her, right? You're affirming him in his kingship, and it makes him want to do more for you, right? And these are real people. These are real people with real examples, right? The next one, appreciation, right? I appreciate this. I appreciate that. You just being aware, right? Again, we can go back to the example of fixing things in the home, right? I appreciate that. It touches us in a very big way, right? Again, small things. It doesn't even have to be anything huge, right? Now, ladies, not every man is going to be a handyman, right? Fixing things around the house. So that's just a common example. So if you do have a spouse who, you know, starts the day with intentions to fix the microwave, and then, you know, a few moments later you have a broken stove and an oven that won't get over 250 degrees, and you know, the light switch for the kitchen light now turns on the dishwasher. It's okay to call a handyman, right? Because you don't only have to appreciate him for doing things around the house, right? There's other ways, there's other gifts, there's other ways he can serve you, other ways that he can show, you can show appreciation towards him, right? Being thankful and appreciative of the husband for just providing, right? And there's sometimes where after being married for so long, these things are expected. And so the verbal appreciation dwindles down. We can't do that. Just as we as husbands, as men are supposed to continue to date our women, our wives, right? Even after we're married, continue to pursue them, right? Continue to chase them, continue to woo them, if you will, right? It's the same thing for the appreciation. Even though there's things that are expected, these things could have been in your vows and they are expected. It's still good to acknowledge those verbally, day in and day out. Second to last, security. Security. We need to hear that you feel safe and secure with us, that you feel comfortable with us. In general, men are natural protectors, right? It does something to let us know that you feel good with us around, that you feel safe and you feel secure, right? That's a big one that I've come across with everybody who I talk to. And this last one is really, really good. Why? Because it's actually different than what I've heard anybody else say, but I agree with it 100%. We need you to mirror us. Like, mirror us? What does that mean? We need you to mirror us. Basically, I need you to show me, right? I need you to show me the good and the bad. Like, if you need to call me out, right? Because I don't want. I'm going to be the leader of the household, but I don't want to be doing it through blind eyes where I can't see my own faults, right? You are my partner, so I need you to show me what I'm doing good and what I'm doing, you know, what I need to fix, what I need to work on, right? We need Esther's, if you will, right? The Queen Esther, she was the only queen. She had a very special role in the Bible, right? And for her people. And with her position as being this new queen, you can't just come and approach the king. Of course, this is back in the Bible times. You can't just go and approach the king without being sent for, right? That's grounds for being killed, right? But she did it anyways because there was something urgent that she needed to tell the king, something that was going wrong that she needed to bring to the king's attention. If you see your king and he is leading the household in a way that is not good, you need to be an Esther. You need to step up. You need to say it. You need to show him himself, right? Yeah, show him all the good stuff with the appreciation and admiration. But if there's things that he needs to work on, you need to show him that. No, it doesn't need to be in public, right? That's stuff that you do in private, behind closed doors, you know, in pillow talk or whatever have you, right? But that is something that every good king needs, right? If you are truly his partner, then you are going to hold him accountable to that high standard that he should be at as a king, right? That he should be at. And so that sort of concludes speaking up our kings, right? From just as Miss Brooks said in the beginning, from, you know, when we are infants, right? Little boys, right? 6, 7, 8 years old, right? Growing up into adolescence, right? Learning more, experiencing more, right? Into young adults, and then finally growing up into men who are supposed to lead the household. It is so important. It is so important, not only what we do to build up our kings, but how we do it. So I just want to thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you guys so much just for tuning in. And I'm going to stick around. If you guys are going to be here, I'm going to be here. We can chat. We can answer some questions. I can throw up my contact information at the end. I have a slide for it. I think my contact, you know, my IG, my email was posted in the chat as well for the live stream. So yeah, I'll be around. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it.
Geoff, thank you so much. I'm trying to get you back here on the screen. Yeah, thank you so much. We really, really, really appreciate you. I have been blown away, just blown away. And I'm not going to go back and try to redo what you said. You said it all so well and so eloquently. We appreciate you. This series on Speaking to a King has the potential to change our community, not just our families, not just our homes, but it has the potential to change our community and the lives of our young men. So what you've said tonight has really set a lot of women free, from talking about the mind shaping all the way to how to speak to the husbands. We appreciate you. We really, truly do. We are going to go ahead and give a couple of giveaways. We'll be around for just a few minutes. Some of the comments that have come across is, he is so dope. I know you get that, right? He is so dope. Also, he is doing a great job. Thank you for the information. Thank you for pouring into us. So those are some of the comments that we've gotten, and we'll be able to share those with you more later. So let's do our first giveaway. Our first giveaway from Speaking to a King. What I told you earlier was that we were going to have two, and we will have two. We were going to do one about halfway and one at the end. But those of you who know, you don't interrupt a good thing. And where Geoff was going and where he was taking us, and that flow was so powerful, I didn't want to interrupt it. But we are going to do our giveaways now. So in partnership with Geoff, he has aligned with us as a partner. We have two giveaways that we're going to do. And what I told you was you needed to comment to win a prize. So we have an automatic counter. We had over 25 comments, I believe, something like that. So the comment number 2 wins the first gift. And that person is Ronine Wedding. So Carrie Ronine Redding Jackson. Here is your gift. I don't know if you can see, these are earrings. These are compliments of Sister Shades. So all of you know Marilyn Collier, she sells these items. So thanks to Geoff, we've been able to provide these for our first giveaway. So Ronine, I will DM you, message you, and get your address. They're out there smiling. They're loving this, Geoff. The second gift then goes to comment number 6, and that is highly favored to Nico Kaiser. So Tani, here's your gift. I don't know if you can see it. I don't want to get it too close. It's actually a brooch. It goes on your lapel. It is a stiletto with a gold bowl. It's pink. So Tiny, you're our second winner. This is compliments of I'm Pinned. That's the name of the artist who does this. I Am Pinned. And she does brooches. She does a lovely job. Her name is Siobhan Gaines. So those are our 2 giveaways tonight. And I will get with you, Tani, and get your mailing address, and we'll make sure you get those. So again, we thank Geoff for coming alongside tonight and pouring into our lives, pouring into our hearts about how to speak to a king. Didn't he do a fantastic job? Fantastic job. I thank God for your family. I think that your projection was right earlier. You said that research shows if you show your family and share your family, people have a tendency to listen. We were locked, engaged, and heard every word you said. So we really do appreciate that. So I'm waiting to see if any more questions come through. If they don't, we'll go ahead and end our Facebook Live. But let me remind you that the Speaking to a King has a series of 5 sessions. So we have 3 more to go. Next Friday, on the 7th of August, we're going to have couples with us. And they are going to continue where Geoff left off. Do you see how God orchestrates things and puts things together? They're going to pick up right where he left off about speaking to a king. I love the example he gave for his parents when he asked them independently, what was that thing that empowered his dad's kingship in the house? And it was about appreciation. It was about affirmation. It was about recognition. I loved that because I think sometimes we miss that in the marriage. So our couple is going to pick up next week, next Friday. We're going to have 2 couples. And then on Tuesday, the 11th, we're going to turn around and have 2 more couples. You all have to join us for these couples. It's going to be enlightening, but it's going to be funny. We've got personalities that are going to be able to share stories firsthand, sort of like Geoff was talking about, but we will have the husband and the wife together to bring us to some more realization about what it is like and what it means to communicate in a marriage. And then on the 25th of August, we're going to come together with the Diamonds. And we're gonna come together and we're gonna talk about this whole series, what we've learned, how we've applied it, how our speakers have poured into us, and we're gonna give some feedback. We will be live. We'll have more giveaways at that time, and it's going to be hilarious. The personalities of the women in the room, you will thoroughly enjoy. So if you haven't messaged me or inboxed me or gone to the website to sign up, it isn't too late. There is no limit. We can have as many of you who want to join us in the Zoom room at the polishing table on the 25th of August. So our website, if you haven't gone there, is D Sharpens D, www, D as in diamonds, sharpens with an S, D.com. You can go there. You can look at the flyers from our previous posts, our previous shows, and then you'll also be able to see the title for the coming shows for the rest of August. At the end of August, on the 28th, we are going to have a bell ringing tribute. It's going to be a moving tribute. We're going to pay homage to our slain children who have been murdered. We have some women who are going to come along beside us. We're going to read the names and we're going to ring a bell in recognition of those children. We've got a couple of women who will share with us what that's like to lose a child. So come alongside with us for the month of August. I know it's going to be jam-packed. I'll do my best to make sure that you know when each item is coming up, and I'll remind you of the days and the times. Let me just ask one more time. Do we have any more comments or any questions? I think the book that was referenced by Geoff was put on Facebook.
Okay, good.
Okay, I've got one more question, it looks like, coming in. It says, Geoff, speaking of love, what are some impactful things to say to a king that speak love into him without him feeling that it's soft or that you're just saying words? From man to man, I love you, to say a teenager or young man. I'm not sure I understand that last part. Speaking of love, what are some impactful things to say to a king that speaks love into him without him feeling like it's soft or that you're just saying words?
Yeah. So one way for intentions to be to come across, right? So there's intent versus impact, right? We can intend to say something, but what we intend doesn't really matter. What matters is how that is impacted upon the person, right? The impact that it has upon the person. So say you're trying to connect with your king, and it's like it's kind of missing, or he's not really feeling it, or the sincerity of it, right? One thing is developing rapport, and I'm not talking about the normal rapport, like, yes, we've been married for a while, not like that, but it's rapport like when you sit down and you're having a true intimate conversation, with your king. The TV's not on, right? The kids are gone if you have kids. You're not doing laundry while you're talking. You're not doing all this other stuff. It's just you and him. A good way to develop rapport in this sense is, it's actually something I use with my clients. It's being in sync with them, right? And so rapport, an easy example is when you'll notice their facial expressions, you'll notice their respiration rate, you'll notice the words that they use, and you'll match it, right? right? So if they're using very excitable language or excitable, you'll match that, right? If they're very calm and they're breathing and the respiration rate is low, you'll match that. One way to test if you're in rapport is if like you reach and take a sip of your drink and then your partner does the same thing right after you. It's something unconscious that goes on in their brain, but it shows that there is a connection, there is communication. So getting in a place where you are matching them basically and developing that rapport is a good way for them to for there to be sincerity, right? For whatever you're saying to truly be true, right? And to come across. And then after that is don't don't just say, you know, don't be general with the things that you're saying. Give specific examples, right? If you're saying you love him, say what you love about him, right? Be specific so that it's intentional, right? If you're appreciative of something, give the exact example that you're appreciative of, right? That shows that you aren't just saying it just to say it. That shows that you're actually thinking about what he has done, right? That is truly gone a long way with you and really impacted you. I think the sincerity will come across a lot more. I know it does with me. And then another thing after that is learning his love language, right? A lot of men, though someone won't admit it, we love affirmation. We love being affirmed by our women, right? But there's other men who you can show your love through gifts, right? Through physical touch. I know a lot of men love, massages or just your presence, things of that sort, right? That's another way that you're able to show your love, right? So if you don't know your king's love language, definitely find out what that is so that you are able to connect with him in the way that he truly receives it.
Okay. And so there was one other comment, if you have time, and I think you might have just answered it because it has to do with love languages and how do you then relate that to young men, for a teenager or a young man, if it's not a husband, but you just talked about affirmation and learning the love language. Do you want to say anything else about how that might be different for a teenager or a young man?
Yeah. So you're still gonna have love languages as a teenager or a young man. Of course, the way that you will reach or speak to those love languages will be different in a different dynamic. If it's mother and son, right? But there's still gift giving, right? There's still affirmation, right? Words of affirmation, and so if you don't want it to be apparent, if you don't want to say, here, I want you to take this love language test so that I can, he's gonna be like, what, mom? But you know your son. You know your son. You've watched him grow up. You know the things that he likes, the things that he doesn't like. You know what he responds to well, and what really gets him excited and excitable. And you know what he's indifferent about, right? So use that as a way to truly say, okay, I know truly how to get to his heart. For me, I'll give you a perfect example. So yeah, words of affirmation is really good and physical touch is really good. But my number one is acts of service, right? And so my mother every single year, right, for my birthday, one of the acts of service that she does is there's this huge fancy meal that I have her cook for me since I was a kid, right? And it does cost a lot
Yeah.
of money because I have her make everything because I'm very traditional. She did it for me this one time when I was a kid. I was like, oh, I want it that exact same way the rest, every single year. That's how she spoke to me, not only through food but through acts of service of providing me, of making me that meal that costs a lot of money, that meal that takes a lot of preparation. She did this when I was a kid, and I'm a grown man and I'm still getting giddy around my birthday because I know that means mom's about to whip up this amazing meal. And that's one of the ways that she's able to show her love to me is through acts of service. And also good food. Like I don't know any brother that doesn't like good food. So that's that's another one right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much again. We appreciate you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing out of your heart. I will be in touch with you,
Mhm.
and we'll follow up on some things as far as making sure that you can get this word out to where it needs to go.
Yes.
Um, I've had some help along the way, so I want to appreciate the people who have helped me, even with this broadcast, in making sure I get all the comments from Facebook, and so that we can keep things moving. I just love you all, and I appreciate you all. I'm gonna close at this time. We're gonna respect Geoff's time and let him get to moving. But I want to say this final thing to the diamonds, and you know what it is already, right? You are a rare diamond. You are precious in God's sight. And my sister, I love the way you shine. So have a good evening. Love you all, and we'll see you next time. All right, so we're off live.
All right.
That was phenomenal, Geoff.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I had a blast. I love what you have going on here. I love everything about it. I love that it's faith led. This is a really good thing that you've got going. So I just want to, definitely commend you for what you do and what you've built. And thank you for reaching out and allowing me to be a part of it. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll get in touch with you. Make sure you get the recording. And again, I am literally blown away just by your knowledge base. I'm a nurse, a registered nurse by trade. I don't know if we even talked about that. But I was right there with you. I understood what you were saying about the brain and the formation of the brain and the neurological development of the brain. And I know other people who work in that field as well really appreciated this. We had people on here from New York, from Indiana, from Ohio, of course, from Missouri. So it's far reaching, and it will continue to go. People have shared it. People who started watch parties. So I'll get you some data and let you know kind of how much damage we did tonight.
That sounds great. That sounds great.
Okay, well, I appreciate you, and I will follow up with you later.
All right, you have a blessed rest of your night.
You as well. Thank you so much, Geoff. Bye-bye.